Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So one of the commenters, Joe W, he requested me to do a video on a loopback system with this motor. So I have this kind of reconfigured to do that. But start off with, those of you that aren't familiar with this is the new Bedini windmill motor I made, and this is the basic circuit. So when you take the output off the system, like on this little circuit, this is the identical one as that. So this is your positive negative to run the motor, and then if you see, the positive of the primary battery becomes the negative of the output. So if you run it back to the battery, it basically puts these two in series. So if you run it back to the original battery, you can see it just makes a direct short. So you're basically connecting positive to negative, and it doesn't work very well. And most of the time, if you don't have fuses on, you'll burn up your circuit. So in order to get around that, this motor has 2 power windings and 1 trigger winding on each side, so there's 4, and then 1 trigger one on each side. So we have 218. This is 130 turns, 3 of them wound together, so 218s, 126. So what I did was, in the normal configuration, I have all 4 of these, 1 per coil. And so what I did is I pulled off 2 of them right here that normally go up to these outside ones, and now they are parallel winding output, so it's completely isolated from the system. And then they go through full bridge rectifiers and then down into the cap dump. The cap dump I have set at 13 volts because first we're going to demonstrate how it runs, just the output going out somewhere so you could see the consistent run of the motor, and then we're going to move this over to here to loop it back to the primary battery, which is this one, and that way you could see the effect that it has on it. So let's go ahead and start this up. So we're kind of wavering between 4.5 and 5.5. So this is just like the normal run, the output going to a separate battery that we're not really including at the moment, but this is how it looks normally. And the RPM about 524, somewhere around there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this, and we're going to put this cap dump going back to the primary battery as a loop back, as most people call it. So let's shut this down. We'll take this off here, and then now we're going to connect it up to go back to the main battery in a loop back configuration. And we could do this because these two windings are completely isolated from the primary windings, so there's no problem direct shorting back to the battery because these are completely isolated. So you have both windings and both windings, so 1 per side, and then through here and through here. So let's give this some power, and we'll fire this up. So here's the motor. Just gonna get up to speed and see the RPM. So 532, so just a hair over what it was before, but this is what the amp meter is doing now. So it's slapping so far that it's actually below 0. You see that? So normally it runs right around here, but now this is what's happening. And you put the power back into the primary battery, and you can see the battery voltage is much more stable. It'll still go down, but you're recovering quite a bit. And you could see how fast this cap dump's going, kind of synchronized with the negative amperage. So like I said, this has a 13 volt zinger. It triggers right around 13.5. That way it's pulsing back to the battery. You don't really want to use like 16 volts because then it'll go so negative that it'll break your meter. So yeah, it kind of overruns it because it goes from here and it slaps so fast that it kind of passes it and goes back. But that's about the most accurate way that you can measure. If you use a digital meter, it just kind of goes all over the place and it's not very accurate. But this gives you a more visual perspective on what's kind of going on. The most efficient is actually just going to a second battery, because when you're doing this with the battery, it's not really charging or discharging, it's just kind of moving back and forth. But it's a very neat little concept. So there you go, Joe. There's your loop back. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments.